What's happening, everybody? Today we are talking about the Buick Grand National and GNX models, aka the V8 killer. But before we get into that, do me a favor and hit that like button if you ever wanted to own a Grand National. And oh yeah, subscribe for more legendary car reviews. Let's get started. There are few American automobiles from the 1980s, or ever, that are as ferocious as the Buick Grand National. The car debuted at the tail end of the dark age for American muscle cars, when muscle cars were all but neutered of their V8 power. Yet the Grand National continues to be a popular choice among gearheads. At first, the Grand National was little more than a cosmetic upgrade for the lackluster second-generation Buick Regal. However, in the years that followed, the car became increasingly monstrous, reaching its peak in 1986 as a performance killer that could not only destroy American muscle cars, but also European rivals. Although a turbocharged V6 would seem like an odd choice for a muscle car, it was really the most sensible way for the Grand National to get over the restrictions that had previously rendered V8s ineffective. The Grand National's rugged, blacked-out angular aesthetics are just as iconic as the vehicle's strength, and the design has endured as a symbol of badassery. While only in production for a short period of time before being retired alongside the even crazier GNX, the Regal's transformation into a tire-shredding monster under the Grand National brand cemented its status as an all-time great. To commemorate Buick's back-to-back manufacturers' titles in the Winston Cup Grand National Series, renamed Winston Cup in 1986, in 1981 and 1982, the Grand National moniker debuted on the G-Body Regal that year. The initial Grand Nationals were mostly just cosmetic upgrades, with new aerodynamic features, paint, and a few other minor adjustments. The new Grand National debuted during the 1982 Daytona 500, and only 215 were produced that year. However, the actual Grand National we all dream of would begin with the introduction of a turbocharged V6 in the second-generation Regal in 1978, which would produce roughly 165 horsepower. After being silenced for 4 years, in 1984, the Grand National name returned as an authentic performance offering. The 1984 Grand National, which was exclusively available in black, was powered by a very subdued turbo V6 that was adjusted and altered to produce 200 horsepower, making it competitive with V8 Corvettes of the era. The Grand National continued in 1985 with little changes, and the next year saw its claim to fame. The 1986 Grand National was released with a monstrous 235 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque thanks to the development of new intakes and an intercooler for the engine, crushing most of the competition it faced, and sold 5,512 units that year. The Grand National was discontinued after its 1987 year model produced an all-time high 245 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque, besting the 225 horsepower and 300 pound-feet of torque of the 1987 Mustang GT, and selling 20,740 units. Although it lacked a V8 engine, the RWD Grand National was every bit as much of a muscle vehicle as anything else available at the time. It even managed to outperform such classic Americana as the Corvette and the Mustang, thanks to its own superior design. In its pinnacle in 1987, not only had the most Grand Nationals ever been produced, but it also appeared in its most spectacular form to date, the Grand National Experimental, better known as the GNX. The GNX was created by modifying 547 instances of the 1987 Grand National with assistance from ASC/McLaren. Yes, that McLaren, to make it the most aggressive and quickest automobile in General Motors stables. The GNX's output was increased to 276 horsepower and 360 pound-feet of torque by replacing the stock turbo with a larger Garrett one, opening the intake and exhaust and adjusting the engine's overall responsiveness. The GNX wasn't only given a power increase, it also received a redesigned, more rigid chassis and rear suspension, larger aluminum wheels and performance tires, a gearbox oil cooler, flared fenders, and specialized analog performance instruments. The GNX, which weighed in at roughly 3,400 pounds, had a 0 to 60 miles per hour pace of 4.6 seconds, and could complete a quarter mile in 13.5 seconds at 103 miles per hour, making it an absolute monster for the time and beating automobiles like the 1987 F110 Ferrari Testarossa, which sported a V12 mid-engine. True for the Grand National as well. But what made the GNX so spectacular was not only the performance, but the blacked out aesthetics and boxy dimensions, which earned it the moniker Darth Vader's vehicle. However, the Regal stopped using the G-body chassis in 1988 in favor of the front-wheel drive W-body, making the GN/GNX a rare survivor of the golden age of American muscle cars. Built on the chassis of the previous Regal, its appearance was completely redesigned with unique features to make it a fierce beast, and the same can be said about the cabin. The Grand National took the beautifully 80s cabin and elevated it with features like rounded analog gauges, performance readouts like Turbo Boost, a lovely 3-spoke steering wheel, and more, while keeping the layout and most aesthetic details of the regular Regal. The athletic but comfortable interior is finished off with the black and white themed bucket seats and the pseudo-luxury embellishments that are present in the Regal. The Grand National offered standard 80s fare for a sports vehicle, like air conditioning and a radio, but nothing near the suite of trim that modern consumers have come to expect. The Turbo Hydromatic 204R 4-speed automatic with the killer T-grip shifter was the only transmission available to manage the power. The second generation Buick Regal wasn't an expensive vehicle, and neither was the Grand National. The 1987 Grand National was the most famous, prolific, and collectible of its day, and it cost a starting price of $16,600, about $38,845 in 2022 dollars. However, in 1987, a Grand National with all available extras cost $18,300, which is almost $43,000 now. The Grand National wasn't too expensive when put up to today's muscle cars. The 2021 Camaro SS, for example, starts at $37,500. However, the GNX was when the price really started to rise at $29,300 in 1987, equivalent to around $69,000 now. In addition, since dealers had to get allocations to sell one of the restricted GNXs, they added markups at the time, with some adding over twice the MSRP, making the GNX a nearly 6-figure vehicle in today's money. The 1987 Grand National and GNX are now the most sought-after models among collectors, with excellent condition examples selling for approximately $45,000 and mint, low-mileage examples selling for $60,000 and above. The price of a GNX may range from $90,000 to $170,000, depending on its age, condition, and mileage. Alright, before we wrap this up, let me know what you think. Are the Buick Grand National and GNX two of the best cars out of the 80s or what? Let me know down in the comments. And if you want to learn more about classic muscle cars like the Grand National and GNX, hit subscribe and show some love by bopping that like button. Love you guys. Till the next one.